Hello. We're starting to hear a few details about what the end of lockdown might look like. I think we're a long way from learning when that might happen, but we're just starting to believe that lockdown might end. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to imagine what that might be like. And for me, there's a bit of anxiety with that as well. We've already stepped from what we considered to be normal into a new normal in lockdown. And for most of us, we've had to establish different routines or no routine. It's been a different environment. Everything has changed. And there's been a rhythm to that of anxiety and dealing with that anxiety and stress and dealing with that stress. And we've settled into a different place, a different way of being. So the knowledge that there will be another new normal, there will be another different normal, piques my anxiety a bit again. And it's made me think, if there are things in this type of normality which I would want to carry into my new normal. I do have a routine. I do have things which I can do at the moment that perhaps were more difficult before. What are the things that I want to continue to do? What do I want to carry with me into a new way of living? And as a Christian, one of those is I've had more time, I suppose, more motivation, less distraction. That's enabled me to spend more time in prayer, spend more time reading my Bible. I've been more aware of God's presence. I think I've been more settled in my identity as a child of God. And I'd really like to carry that into whatever the new normal looks like. And I know that as things go back to how they perhaps weren't before, but more like they were before, there will be more distractions, there will be more challenges to living that way of life. And it made me think about a little story in the Bible about Jesus and his followers, the disciples. And Jesus and his disciples went to the district of Caesarea Philippi, and Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" Now that's a really difficult question on two levels. Who do people say that I am? But Jesus is giving no clues. He calls himself the Son of Man. Now this would have been a title that was familiar to his friends, the disciples, from the scriptures, from the what we call the Old Testament writings. It's a description that isn't really a description. So Jesus is not giving any clues as to who he really is by calling himself the Son of Man. And he asks, "Who do people say that I am?" And his friends, the disciples, sort of fluff the answers. They say, well, some people say this, and some people say something else, and some people are calling you this and that. So Jesus, who is never one to woolly around the edges, asks a direct question. "But you," he says, "who do you say that I am?" Jesus is very good at the direct question. Who do you say that I am? And I'm very aware that this is a question that Jesus will ask me at some point. In fact, it's a question that he will ask all of us. Who do you say that I am? Now, I've already said that Jesus has given no clues in his question to his friends. But I haven't told you about the context. Caesarea Philippi was a city that had been given to Philip, which is why it was called Philippi. It was called Caesarea because it was dedicated to Caesar. It was owned by the Romans. And Philip had built right in the middle of this city huge white marble temple to worship the god Pan, the god who's often displayed as a faun, half man and half goat, the god who is about carnal pleasures, excess. So here are Jesus and his friends right in the middle of the pagan world. It's a really challenging place to be, and that's where Jesus chooses to ask that question. I wonder what the world would be like that I step back into. I think it might be a little like Caesarea Philippi, that we might not be able to see a big white temple in the middle of it, but it will be filled with people who worship their own pleasures and seek their own gratification rather than seeking God. And I am concerned that that is where God will ask me that question, where Jesus will ask me, who do you say that I am? And I don't want to be like the disciples and woolly around the edges. Oh, some people say this and some people say that. I don't want to answer with my intellect. I don't want to answer a theological question. I want to answer with my heart, which is why I want to take my spiritual practices from lockdown into whatever the future is. My practice of spending more time with God, my practice of prayer, my practice of reading my Bible, my spiritual disciplines, so that when Jesus asks me the question, but you, who do you say that I am? I answer not with my head, but with my heart, because I know who he is. In the same way that the disciple Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. As we moved towards thinking about an end to lockdown, I'd like to invite you to think about, what would you like to carry into a new life? What can help you to answer that question when Jesus asks you, because he will, but you, who do you say I am? To answer with your heart and not with your head. To answer because you know who he is and not because you've heard it. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Stay safe.